But Mexico is right next to the USA, right underneath it. If you look at the map, it isn't actually underneath. They're all the same thing there. But I grew up. One of my first experiences with Mexican food was at Prospector Pete's in Buffalo, New York, and I loved it so much that my mom, being Irish but being a great cook, we got canned tortillas. That's all we could get in Buffalo. There's not many Mexican people there now. Great Mexican restaurants there now. Canned tortillas, mix some ground beef and onion, mix it up, got some kind of sauce, and she was making Irish tacos back in the 60s. So I always had a great affinity towards a culture through its food. My wife is Italian. I love the Italian food. Thai food, Buddhist country, intriguing, wonderful place. Their food is unique and special. Japan, amazing stuff. All over, great food everywhere. So Mexico for me was always, that was my entrance point. Then when I moved to California in 1985, I got very close to a lot of Mexican culture. And it was wonderful. Just the Bejo Sexto, the big giant thing, and the Mexican music, and laughter and joy and love of family. Just wonderful things for any culture, and Mexico has a lot of that. So I have great respect for the Mexican people because of that. I love the food, and the girls are beautiful too. Well, it's a different band last night than tonight, different song list. We're doing one song that we did yesterday, Mr. Big's song, Addicted to That Rush. But it was nice to play with some local players, some local Mexican players, and meet a few more of them too. Every time I come here, I meet more and more. And I've been to Mexico many, many times now, doing clinics and doing shows with Mr. Big, Winery Dog, Steve Vai, Sons of Apollo, a lot of other things. So yesterday's show was good. The gentlemen that I played with, the guitarist and drummer, excellent players. But Thomas Lang and the other guitarists tonight, they're kind of world pros. You know, they play all over the world. So it'll be a little different in that respect. But I love also playing with people that are new to the game, because they have a new kind of enthusiasm, and the gentleman last night certainly did. We had a wonderful time, so we're gonna have a good time again tonight too. And doing the clinics also, I think it's nice, because I do clinics because I love to help my fellow musicians. So if I can help any of my Mexican fellow bass players, guitar players, drummers, singers, songwriters, I'm happy to do it. The key probably is best illustrated by one very simple word, which is relentless. I mean, you just don't stop. You keep going. And I had that tattooed as a sign that's what I do. I keep working. I get up, I pick up my bass, it's not working too well. That means I gotta hit it harder. I gotta go farther. I gotta play harder, dig deeper, learn more. And I was never interested in being famous or rich. I just wanted to play the absolute best I could. And like many professions, if your goal is to be famous and or rich, it's a stupid goal. It's a dumb goal. Your goal should be to do this most amazing thing, the most amazing burger, the most incredible electric car, whatever. That's the goal. It's not to become rich. So for me, my goal still is to improve every day. I wake up and I get with my bass, I feed the cat, I get with my bass and I work and work and work and work. Discover something new every day that I didn't know before that helps me a little bit more. So I'm very pleased that people occasionally have expressed positive point of view towards me. I appreciate that very much. But myself towards me, I'm still learning, and I got a lot more to learn. The bass I have, some people refer to it sometimes as stereo. So it has two outputs. When you see two, you think right, left, stereo, but it's not true right, left, stereo. It's high and low. There's one pickup does high frequencies, higher, and the other pickup does lower frequencies. Pickups close to the neck are lower sounding, so that one does the low sound. Pickups farther towards the bridge are brighter as you go towards the bridge, so that gets brighter. If you look in your stereo, you see a tweeter and a woofer. If you have an old stereo that's broken or that you don't like anymore, disconnect the tweeter, and it's it's awful, it's terrible. If you disconnect the woofer, it sounds like that, but put them together and it sounds like music. So when you hear my top speakers, it sounds kind of fuzzy and buzzy. When you hear the bottom, it sounds very deep and basic, but put them together and it's a full bass tone. And that's I loved it because I love the original P bass, That's the middle pickup. But I also love the old Gibson EBO basses, which also sounded a lot like the Hofner basses Paul McCartney used. The super deep low end was a 60s tone. And then I wasn't the only one that did it. Many other manufacturers made dual output basses and it configured exactly the same, with 2 pickups going to 2 separate amps. So that's Alembic did it. Rickenbacker made the Rico sound. Used a stereo plug though instead of 2. The only reason I don't use a stereo cord is because I didn't know how to wire it. I was about 16 years old when I put that pickup in. I chiseled a hole and put it in. I didn't know what I was doing. And that's how that bass is still to this day. So all the other basses are modeled after it. So anyway, you also asked me about the gear that I'm using. I'm using the Line 6 Helix. It's a digital modeling device. I went to the company and they modeled my personal custom preamp that I used for decades. That was almost all of Talas, all of Edelman Smile, Mr. Big. All those records were all done with that preamp. And they modeled it, and it's in the Helix software now. So if you buy the Helix, you get my preamp also. That through Hartke amps, they're reliable and sound great and rock solid. My Yamaha Attitude bass, my Rotosound strings, my Hipshot detuner, my DiMarzio pickups. So that's about it. Well, you might be surprised that I'm not as partial to shredding as you might think. The 2 types of music now, pop and songwriting, and prog and shredding. I was a Beatles fan, and I know a very famous prog person also, who's one of the biggest prog guys in the world, and he was into the Beatles too. And so were all the early prog bands, Genesis and King Crimson. The songs are really everything. And I do a bass solo. The original reason for it was for the other guys in the band to go and have a beer while I kept working. So it's not all about soloing and shredding. It's fun, it's an enjoyable thing, but it's without songs, you don't reach the same people. And I would like music I do to reach a lot of people. When we played To Be With You, Mr. Big, I look out and there's 10, 20, 40, 60,000 people with tears in their eyes or smiling, and it's unbelievable. We touched so many people, that little simple song. Then I've seen shredder guys do the most amazing playing I've ever witnessed in my entire life, and there's 20 people in the audience, and most of them are like this. So I wish that wall would come down. I wish it would. We tried a little bit with Mr. Big because we had To Be With You, but we also had Daddy Brother Little Boy and Addicted to That Rush. And we did break it down because we saw the kids with the Slayer shirts were singing To Be With You, and the 14-year-old girls with braces were singing the heavy stuff. So we got close, but I'd like to see that get better. I'd like to see people, because I love all kinds of music, from classical to Bulgarian choir to you name it, everything you can imagine. And I can listen to the heaviest death metal, and then also Frank Sinatra, and I love them both. They both have amazing qualities. So I'd love to see people go that way more. Unfortunately, people get these blinders on, and I must listen only to this, and everything else is awful, and we hate it all, and we hate anyone who listens to it. No. Peace, love, happiness. Come on, let's enjoy it. I like that. But I like everything, and I would love to see the walls come down a bit. I understand why they're there, though. The shredders are musicians. They're players. They work hard. They dedicate hours, years, decades to playing and being as good as they possibly can be. And they end up without much money, or broke, or no record deal, or no nothing. And the pop people are kind of handsome or attractive people that I guess can kind of sing. And the music is programmed. There was no drummer, no bass player, no guitar. It was all button pushing, and and when they sing, it's all pitch corrected. So you can see the frustration of the shredder people looking at that, going, and they're all billionaires, and they're all on TV every night, and playing at the Super Bowl, and you see the frustration that is there, and my heart goes out to the shredders and to the prog people and people that like music that's a little more substance and played by real people and actually really sung. My heart goes out to them. All my bands have always been that way, so I understand their frustration, and I think it is warranted. But the pop people figured out a way to sell records and reach millions, so there's got to be some midpoint there. Anyway, I rest my case, Your Honor.
Sure.
Well, I'm fortunate to say there hasn't been many low points at all. At any given time, I was in a pretty good situation. Maybe late 70s, left Talas for a year, got another band shortly. Things were in a confusing state. It was a tough time. I didn't know how I would make it into the future at all. But I kept going and had it happen. And then David Lee Roth thing was unbelievable. It was a life-changing, amazing experience. And then after that, we ended up with a band, Mr. Big. I started the band and put some great people together, and we ended up with a #1 single. So that little bump from David Lee Roth to bump ahead, Mr. Big, it was pretty darn good. And now I'm so lucky. I got the Winery Dogs, Sons of Apollo, and Niacin's going to play again. A couple other bands I'm involved in, and musicians. So I'm very grateful that that's the case. And at my lowest lows, it wasn't too bad. It was tough. It was tough going, but it wasn't so bad. So I'm glad that I'm where I'm at, and forever grateful. Oh, I learn from beginners all the time. Every time I sit down with a beginner and try to show them things, and I see them just trying to struggle through, and I see where their struggles are, and it makes sense why that's a struggle, and that will relate to something that I'm doing. When I do a clinic, I almost always learn more than the audience from the clinic when I do it, because when you have to explain things, you have to explain them in a way for others to understand, which means you must know them better. They say, if you really know a subject well enough, you should be able to explain it to a 5-year-old, even nuclear physics. So if you know nuclear physics well enough, you should be able to explain it to a 5-year-old. And in doing so, you'll probably learn more about how nuclear physics is than in any other way. Maybe, who knows? But I do enjoy beginner players, working with them, helping them, because they say, as the twig is bent, so grows the tree. So I want to make sure that twig doesn't get bent the wrong way, and they're on a good, solid path to a future as a musician, and a great adventure that it is. Well, Mr. Big right now is off. We're not currently active. Sadly, our drummer passed away, as many people know, and it's been difficult to carry on without him. But a wonderful gentleman filled in. Mr. Matt Starr did a great job, but it's just tough without the original guy there. It's a tough thing. So we don't know what the future will bring with that. I'd love to play with those guys in any capacity, so we'll see. I'm very lucky to have the Winery Dogs, me, Mike Portnoy, Richie Constant. What a riot. I have a wonderful time in that band. And on top of it, I get to play with Mike also in Sons of Apollo, which is a more proggy, more elaborate band, but really just a blast to play in. And there's a bunch of other projects here and there. I've been recording in my home during the pandemic and done over 300 tracks, over 6 albums for clients all over the world. I'm just looking forward to more of everything. Well, I think the formula for success has been proven. And the most successful players in the world followed this one formula. And it is get in a band. Get in a band with songs. Get in a band with songs that you sing. Chris Squire, Geddy Lee, Paul McCartney, Doug Pinnick. The list goes on and on. They were all in a band. The band had songs with singing. It's a great thing. Being in a band, you learn something you don't learn anywhere else. You learn to work with other people. Musicians learn to be an ensemble player, which is essential. To play only by yourself, alone in your bedroom, no one will ever hear you, and you could be the greatest musician in the world, but no one will ever know. So what the point? Getting in a band, now much you have 4 or 5 people working together. Now you can move forward a lot more. You're going to move very forward if you have songs that people sing. And that's the trick, I think. There are players now that go out and do solo stuff, and it's great. But they were in a band. That's why you know them, because they were in a band with songs that you sing. So that's the best I can do, and I think it's been proven out again by the numbers. Paul McCartney is the richest musician in the world. He got in a band with songs that you sing. So I rest my case again. These are my closing arguments.